Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order of the Water Policy Advisory Committee this morning, and ask Vicki if she'll please call roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant,
Here.
Commissioner Rowley,
Here.
Harry Pomeroy, Raymond Mondragon,
Here.
Marcus Smith, Vince DeMaio, Commissioner Ridling,
Here.
Commissioner Madrid,
Here.
and Commissioner Levitt.
Thank you, Vicki. We do have a quorum. We'll move down to number 3, which is approval of the minutes for April the 13th of 2021. If everybody's had a chance to review those, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Chairman, so moved for approval.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same with those opposed. Okay, motion carries. Move down to update regarding the land trust, and I'll turn it over to Mayor Morris.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning with you all. And I would like to provide an update. Over the last year or so, you've heard a lot of conversation about the Paleo Channel and this idea that groundwater conservation and the retirement of ag pumping in that area would be advantageous. You've heard about the REPI application, the REPI program that Cannon Air Force Base has applied for. So I thought I'd just bring you up to speed to exactly where we're at on this. There is a land trust that will be a private entity land trust called Ogallala Land and Water Conservancy. It's being stood up. They sought funding support from both the county and the city for their administrative expenses, and both the county and the city have entered into an agreement to provide money for administrative costs. The board of the new trust has been established. There's 2 positions on the board from Central Curry Soil and Water Conservancy, and those seats are held by Spencer Pipkin and Clint Hardin, the former senator. The county has 1 seat, and the county appointed Commissioner or Chairman Robert Thornton to that seat. The city has 1 seat, and the City Commission has appointed me there, as you know, Mayor Pro Tem. The other positions, there's a landowner, and I'll point out that the landowner seat is to be held by a landowner producer that is not in the target area for this effort, and that gentleman's name is Ronnie Montague. There is a business owner there's a seat held by someone representing business inside the city of Clovis, and Mr. Mark Carpenter was appointed to that. And then we have an at-large position, and the former mayor, David Lansford, is in that position. So that's the board of the newly formed Ogallala Land and Water Conservancy Trust. We've had 1 meeting where officers were selected, and Mr. Lansford is the chairman. Mr. Carpenter is the vice chairman. And again, the purpose of all of this is to facilitate the execution of essentially 2 large grant programs, one being the REPI, the other being the RCPP. And the goal is retirement of ag pumping and conservation of groundwater. That's the goal. So the city has entered into that. Again, like I said, the City Commission did enter into an agreement to provide administrative costs. From the city's perspective, in my opinion, we need to be involved in really everything and explore everything. The city, I think, got it right with the agreement. It's a time and material agreement, 1-year renewable, and with a unilateral termination clause. So, basically, water board members, if it's as good a deal as it could be, then we'll be glad that we're there and have a seat on that board and help steer it. If it's not, then we get out. But as you all know, we need to be exploring all options when it comes to water. And Let me just glance at my notes and make sure I've covered everything. And I'd be happy to stand for questions. Just where we're at, we're approval of legal documents, bylaws, articles of incorporation has been done. We've, again, elected officers. We're working on a job description for an executive director, and we'll be beginning the search for that. Selecting an accounting firm, taking care of directors and officers insurance, all those things that you do at the very beginning, and that's the stage that we're at. And obviously, I'll report to the city commission as to the progress over time. Any questions?
Mayor, is this committee going to meet monthly, or what do you think?
Yeah.
Or has that been decided yet?
Right now, it's at the call of the chair, and, there's a lot of communication through email, but we have not set a meeting schedule. I think there'll be sporadic and frequent meetings for some time while we're getting it going.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Mayor Morris?
I have several.
Yes.
The contract for administrative services, Mayor, do you know if that's been approved by the county? That the contract that Max Best drafted?
Approved by the county? No, I don't know.
Or the entities? The other question is, under the idea of the land trust, and I've only heard by listening to some of the commission meetings, my only concern on that was, and you had mentioned to try to get farmers not to pump within the Paleo Channel. We've kind of been involved with that for a number of years, and this discussion is not new. This is basically an old discussion that's coming to fruition. My concern is taking dollars away from the U Pipeline project and creating a different entity. So I'm not sure, I'm going to study more on it, but my concern is creating another entity with a new board and the possibility of taking monies away, because they'll be able to apply for money through the Water Trust Board, I assume, and taking monies away from the Eastern New Mexico Rural Water Utility Authority and the plan that they already have. I mean, the city already paid for 10 wells to be shut down in the Paleo Channel area. So I have some concerns, to be honest with you.
And I appreciate those concerns. I think a lot of us have had concerns, and you're right. This isn't a new concept, but it is coming to fruition in that the REPI application was successful. You have RCPP coming along with the matching funds and all these things. And so, while the concept is one that's been around, now there's this funding to try and accomplish, the retirement of ag pumping and so forth. And you're right, I suppose it does bring on a competitor at the Water Trust Board. But as far as the city's perspective goes, again, is $150,000 per year that we've agreed to put in. So, real small when compared to our investment. Obviously, we are, if we were to, if money reveals where our priorities are, obviously our priority is the U Pipeline project and the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority. And so, we're focused on that. Again, we got to the place with this discussion and as this effort was being advanced where, we reached a point where, for me as mayor, the question was, am I for an effort that would retire agricultural pumping? Yeah, I have to be. Am I for an effort that has the city partnering with and potentially helping enrich the asset that is Cannon Air Force Base? Yeah, I'm for that. And so, again, that's why I think we got it right with the agreement. We are participating and trying to be helpful partners, but we did not obligate the city to something, nor did we, take money away from the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority to do this.
And thank you for that, Mayor. And I do appreciate the fact that I believe under the contract, we have a year to see how things go and then review the contract and then go from there.
Yep, the city's agreement is, I refer to it as 1 year renewable. That's probably not legalese, but it'll come back before our commission each year. And so, if we're, everyone knows probably, but we split our commission with that, and I cast the tie-breaking vote to put us into this agreement. So obviously our commissioners, our commission are, we're watching this closely. If there isn't measurable progress in accomplishing, the best of scenarios with this, then we will stop. We'll terminate.
And the reason why I'd ask all is because I really believe that the Water Authority has made a lot of progress in the
Absolutely.
last couple of years with the administrators, Mr. Ortega's leadership on that. And of course, Finish Water 3, I think you're about to complete that. And Finish Water 2, I've had the opportunity to tour the entire project all the way to the base and the work that's been done there. So I'm like you, Mayor. I think we all want to see the water pipeline project completed and hopefully in our lifetime.
No, absolutely, and appreciate you bringing that up, Mr. Mondragon. Mayor Pro Tem Bryant had asked me specifically to come report on the land trust, and by doing that, perhaps I should, I'm reporting, and it sounds like maybe this is this is the thing that I'm most excited about. It couldn't be further from the truth. As you know, I chair the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority. Could not be happier. I am by far the most enthusiastic ambassador for that project right now, and you're right, we are making incredible progress with that project, and we're not taking our eyes off of that one.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
And Mayor and Mr. Mondragon, I completely agree, and I think, at the time that we voted on this, commission was pretty split on which way to go on the land trust, and I think we made a good decision on the agreement for 1 year and seeing where this goes, because we all support Canada, we all support water conservation, and so, we'll see where we're at after a year and kind of go from there.
I know, Mr. Chairman, that when the 10 wells were shut down, and correct me if I'm wrong, Justin or Mark, in the previous water person that was there, I think his name was John, first name was John, when those wells were shut down, and Mayor, he did report that the levels within the wells did go up some. Not a lot, but some.
Mayor Pro.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the committee. Yes, I mean, you did see some recovery of the wells. How much of that was due to the original drawdown and the cone of depression that a well creates I think is a majority of what those wells recovered over time. In regards to the Water Trust Board funding, I don't think that it is a direct competitor for Water Trust Board funding, simply because what the mission of the land trust is to purchase water rights and to secure those water rights. And from my experience with the Water Trust Board, everything's always been infrastructure related. And I know that as part of the application process, you have to say that you actually have the water rights already secured. So I'm not sure the funding is eligible for the purchase of water rights and what they're trying to accomplish. And Mr. Ortega, please, in your experience, is that correct? Yeah, so from a direct competition standpoint and what the land trust is trying to do, I don't think it would directly compete with what the city of Clovis does with our reuse project versus what the Water Utility Authority does with their project for Water Trust Board funding.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Ridley, did you have a question? I thought you had your hand up.
My question was, I understand that on the federal level, they're working on this infrastructure bill to fund their water project 100%. Is that correct?
That is, and of course, we'll let
Or
Orlando Ortega kind of address that in his update, and maybe he can, bring us up to date on that as well. Mr.
Yeah,
Miles.
just a quick follow-up. The current identified funding sources, this kind of goes to what Justice said, neither one of those are competitors with the Ute Lake Pipeline. Is that fair?
You're right, Mr. DeMaio. That's fair to say.
Yeah.
There's
Those
no
are completely
there's no
separate dollars.
competition created.
Right.
Okay, any other questions for Mayor Morris? Okay, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the
Thank you.
update.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move down to number 5 with the EPCOR update with Mark Horta. Mark, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. So, just a quick update, over the last 3 months, so May average delivery, was 6.5 million gallons per day. June average delivery was at 7 million gallons per day, and then July average was at 6.2 million gallons per day, so, really we've seen pretty consistent, average daily delivery and demand throughout so far our three what we would call pumping months of the summer so far. So everything's, looking good there. Conservation's working, water, the reuse with city, everything's doing its job to reduce use. So we're seeing a pretty consistent average daily delivery. And for the month, or for the year so far, our max day has been in June, and that was at 8.9 million gallons. So definitely down from what we were seeing several years ago for a max day. So from a pumping versus demand standpoint, we've had a really good year so far. And then in some of the other updates is for new fire hydrants, we did install a new fire hydrant at the intersection of Winchester and Sharps Avenue. And then we also installed a new fire hydrant on South Norris Street where they're building that new warehouse over there by our pump station. And then valve replacements, been doing quite a bit of valve work. We've replaced so far 4 4-inch valves and 1 6-inch valve. These are all either inoperable valves or valves that were hard to turn, things that we found during our valve maintenance, our 5-year preventative maintenance program that we have for our valves. So we find those and then we correct them. So that's the work we've done so far in regards to that for the year. We did do a small line extension so far this year, 2,500 feet of 6-inch PVC. We've also did a alley replacement where we replaced approximately 300 feet of old 2-inch steel water line and replaced that with new 4-inch C900 PVC. So got an old line out of commission and upsized it with a newer main as part of our small main replacement program. And then, of course, our collections, and I had reported on this earlier, that our collections did start back in July 1. So we had, of course, stopped back at the beginning of the pandemic with our collections, postings, and turnoffs. But those did resume. So we've seen high numbers, in our posting and in our turnoffs. But we've also been working with a large number of customers. I think to date we've probably done over 450 pay term setups, and of course just assisting the customers with any way we can, setting up pay terms, providing links to other help like the rent help.nm, or pointing them in the way of 211. So we send out direct mailers with that information as well as that, putting that available on our website. So. And we continue to work with customers as needed to make sure that we can get them services restored, get them caught up, and get them back on track. So, and then just an update on some upcoming projects. We've got one that was currently in design on Humphrey Road, which will be basically between NM 523 or Airport Highway down to CR10. We're going to be installing a length of 12-inch line as part of our transmission system, basically upsizing that line that's going to allow us to deliver more water towards our Norris and Brady pump station sometime in the future. Also looking at replacing some pumps at our Norris and Brady pump station. That came as a result of a recent study that we had CDM Smith do at that pump station and indicated those pumps were ready for replacement. And also we will be rehabbing starting in September. One of the tanks at our Norris and Brady pump station will be taken down for a complete recoat inside, outside. Any repairs that need to be made will be done at that time. And that was a result of the tank inspections that we completed, I think, in around 2018, 2019 timeframe, where we had all of our tanks were completely drained, clean, inspected, and reports developed for those. So we'll be systematically redoing all of our tanks over the next several years until they're all complete. So. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Mark, can you give us some thoughts on the rebate program, how that's going, and
It's chugging along, I would say. So, we've seen, with our newest rebate, which is our water catch barrel rebate, we've had a handful of people come in, for that one. And then, of course, we still see others filter in with the toilets and, washers and whatnot. So, the advertisement remains out there. We put our ads out every summer on the radio, newspaper. It's always available. That information's always available on our website. So, certainly still there, and it's still chugging along.
with your office being closed at this time, does that have any impact on that program?
Not really. There's a lot of other avenues available. Like I said, all the applications are available online. They can all be dropped off at our Dropbox, or they can be mailed in. So the process is still there.
Okay. And what's the possibility of opening back up your office? Or when is that gonna maybe happen?
I would say that's probably above my pay grade. But honestly, we had started our reintegration phase 2, which was gonna be supposed to start in August, and then with this Delta variant, they kinda changed things, and, we're very driven by not just things in New Mexico, but all of the states that we do business in, and then, of course, Canada. So, that's kind of how it's looked at. So I think until we can see things get more consistent across the board and everywhere that we operate, will be when they decide on what,
Right.
when and where.
Okay. Any questions for Mark? Mr. Mondragon?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for asking the question about the office. I do see on Facebook quite a bit of comments as to why your office is not open, or at least the drive-through windows, so hopefully people heard it. But a lot of people just want that contact, I think, to be there to deposit, to see someone accepting their deposits. Question on wells. Has there been any other exploration of wells south of town as far as, I know you guys were looking at maybe doing some new wells up there, not too sure. Could you talk a little bit about that? South of town?
As far as wells right now, we just, is bringing on new wells, we're still just relying solely on our lease well program. So
Okay.
we're, currently engaged in a few of those that we're looking at that. None of them are south of town. We do continue to monitor all of our wells on an annual basis, so we do summer performances, which we've actually started and are nearing completion of that, where we go out and, of course, we measure static water levels in all of 80-plus wells, as well as getting the running levels, so we can actually see the drawdown and GPMs, pressures in the line. So we take all that information, that all gets put into a spreadsheet, and then it will be used to update our water resources plan. And in fact, John Shoemaker and Associates is currently working on updating that plan with our 2020 data. We continue to monitor it, that way we can see which way we need to head.
And all the wells in the city are testing good? Any issues?
As in regards to performance?
Yes.
Yeah, so we are, of course, when it comes to the wells, we know that the wells south of town, and those that we have some in Roosevelt County, those are the ones that we are seeing the most amount of decline and
Right.
at the fastest rate. The wells that are within the city limits, we are seeing better results with them as far as saturated thickness, GPMs, what they're able to produce, least amount of drawdown. So that's what we are seeing.
That's good. Thank you, Mark.
Hey, any other questions for Mark? No? Okay, Mark, appreciate the update. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the city update with Mr. Howalt.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the committee. We continue to make progress with our reuse project. Phase 1D is about 99% complete, and we're working on wrapping it up. Mainly have the INC guys out there working on the SCADA system, getting the tank to talk to the wastewater treatment plant, and so that it all correlates and delivers water when it needs to be delivering water and fills the tank when it needs to be filling the tank. So making good progress on that and should be wrapping that up in the next month or so. Phase 2, the pond work, everything is also completed out there. The one component that we're waiting on is a valve, and the valve would be the control system that interconnects the two ponds. If you recall, we only were able to award the construction of the one pond, which gives us plenty of volume to water the golf course with the reuse water. And so we'll get the valve installed and then just look for a future funding source potentially if we need to also improve the other pond at some time in the future. But like I said, we're finished with that project, just waiting on a valve. And then finally, phase 2, the transmission line construction project. Of course, we've let that project, had our pre-construction conference on that one as well. And unfortunately, we're waiting on supplies on that one as well. If you're not aware, the PVC market was hit drastically, obviously through supply chains, and even over the freeze that happened in Texas, the resin plants were shut offline for a period of time. And so getting PVC pipe has certainly been challenging. So we had an expected delivery date between mid-July and mid-August. We're sitting here at coming on mid-August. The suppliers are still saying, keep holding in there. We're hoping to get it to you. So we don't have a great start date when they'll actually be able to start that transmission line project. And further to kind of what Mark was talking about and what the reuse project has done for EPCOR's system itself, we do have reuse water available to Green Acres as well as to Robbie Pierce baseball complex. And so over the winter period, this upcoming winter, our parks maintenance crew will be working to get those switched over off of EPCOR's system and onto our reuse water. So next major pumping season for EPCOR, those two systems, which are currently on potable supply, will be coming off, which will also reduce the demand on their system overall. In regards to total demand over the last couple of years, and just to give you some insight on what our reuse system actually delivers. So in FY19, we delivered about 52 million gallons for the total fiscal year. In FY20, we delivered 86 million gallons. And then in FY21, we delivered 114 million gallons. And so, of course, we did bring on some additional end users during that time period. However, you can see the effect that it has on the overall demand that we're taking off and relieving from EPCOR. Now, granted, not all of those were on EPCOR's system, but we do deliver quite a bit of water to our parks and ball fields around the city. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Holwalt? Well, you must have answered everything.
Fantastic.
Okay, we'll move on to the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority update with Mr. Ortega. A lot going on with this project.
Thank you for this time. Glad to give you an update. We've got lots of things going on. Just to maybe start off with this update on the question regarding the infrastructure bill. We're very cautiously optimistic, but we are working towards our normal planning also. So we are prepared for just about anything, and we've created just about every scenario that we can create. So whatever comes our way, we will put it to good use and continue moving our project forward. We have several projects underway, and I'll just brief you on those very quickly. As you know, we've completed Finished Water 2 pipeline that connects the transmission to the community of Portales and Cannon Air Force Base. The front end of Finished Water 2 is at the northwest of Cannon Air Force Base, right at the beginning of Curry Road R. We have our main junction vault just almost at that intersection at Curry Road R and the highway, which is 6084. And that's where everything connects, coming from the reservoir. We connect going towards Clovis, Cannon Air Force Base, and Texaco, and then also to Portales and Elida. With that said, we are currently under construction with the pipeline to Portales. We're constructing that in two phases. Phase one is finished water 3A, which is 11.5 miles. Finished water 3B is 5.2 miles that will connect to the Lime Street facility within the city of Portales. We are, as I mentioned, under construction with finished water 3A, and that is a project that'll last 360 days to complete from notice to proceed to the contractor. Finished water 3B, we are underway with design and easement acquisition. As soon as that is complete, we'll go out to bid for that 5.2 miles and engage in construction with that. That finished water 3 is fully funded and ready to go. With that said, I'll move on to the next project that we're working on, several simultaneously. Finished water 1 is connecting to finished water 2 northwest of Cannon and heading north to our proposed treatment facility site. That is 15.5 miles. We are just about to wrap up our 100% design on that and are currently working on easement acquisition. Our hope and goal is to be shovel-ready by December as we will hopefully receive a sizable federal appropriation to go along with our state and local match and go out to bid around the first of the year with finished water 1. We are also currently working on raw water 3, which is just north of the proposed treatment facility. And raw water 3 takes us to 26.5 miles all the way to the edge of the Caprock. With that said, the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Board approved the design work for that and easement acquisition, and we have, as of July 1st, engaged in that. So we are now currently working on that. We are also continuing to wrap up the Texaco lateral alignment study that we started about 8 months ago, and with that we have explored different options to connecting to Texaco, and we will soon complete that process. And once that is completed and approved by all stakeholders, then we move forward with the next process, which is the design for that pipeline. With that said, we have total funds invested for fiscal year 22 for construction, design, and easement acquisition is at a little over $27 million. Total Eastern New Mexico Water Utility funds invested for fiscal year 22 construction, design, and easement acquisition is a little over $3.9 million of local dollars to match state and federal funds. We also have a little over about $17.5 million waiting for finished water 3B to complete that project. So all in all, see if I have the projected numbers here. We have a little bit, about $44.5 million to work with all of these projects. And we're excited about that, making progress with it. I believe that's it. I stand for questions.
Any questions for Mr. Ortega?
So you said that they might fund the whole thing with the infrastructure bill. What would be that amount of money? What would it take to fund that entire project?
The total projected estimated cost for the whole project is about $525 million or $527.
So 500 million is what it'd take to finish with the 44 million you already have?
It would be 75% of that total cost. The federal government would appropriate 75% of the project.
That'd be kind of nice.
Would be nice.
Be great.
Yes.
Any other questions? Mayor, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. I know you spend some time up at the Ute Lake, and I know you watch the water levels fairly close. Could you give us your thoughts and what they looked like last time you were there?
Sure. Love being put on the spot. So. Getting quite used to that. Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, after assuming the chair of the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority, and really prior to that, I was doing my best to really, study up and understand all things water. And my family and I like to go to Ute Reservoir for recreation. And so, each time I'm down there, not only am I watching the data on USGS, which is available to anyone. You can go to United States Geological Survey and look at the data on Ute, or really any reservoir. Anyway, they report the elevation level as well as the storage level in acre feet. And so, you can just look at that each day, and I've just really enjoyed following that and comparing that to recent years, and, comparing it to last year and so forth. But then, like I said, we go down to the reservoir and play around, and so I go over and look at the intake structure, go over and look at the spillway, and it really kind of makes it real, the elevation level, I hadn't looked today, but yesterday it was 3779. So that's 3,779 feet in elevation, which would put it about 9 feet below the crest of the spillway at the reservoir. And so, while reservoirs all over the state are suffering, Ute Reservoir is actually in really good shape, and it's currently holding about 156,000 acre feet of storage. And when you start to track that and see like, for example, earlier this year, there was a good rain and a lot of inflow into the reservoir, and so we saw about a 2-foot rise in elevation. And you go, well, what does 2 feet do in terms of acre feet storage and things like that? And it just makes it real, and it illustrates how viable the project is. And once we're taking our reservation, taking our acre feet reservation of 16,415 acre feet a year off of that, we're talking about a couple of feet in water elevation off of that massive reservoir. So it's going to serve its primary purpose in giving us in eastern New Mexico a renewable source of water, but it'll continue to serve the secondary purpose, and that is recreation. And so I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for, but that's where my mind is, and on the reservoir. I'm proud of the shape that it's in. I'm proud of Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority. I'd just like to mention, that Mr. Ortega and the staff do such a fantastic job. I know you know Mayor Pro Tem because you're on the board, but so efficient and put the money to work, and all, you just heard the update, but there are various stages of the project all in motion at one time, but it's all managed so well and so efficiently. And of course, we have a great engaged board, and so it's a wonderful organization to be a part of. And I in particular love it because it takes our minds onto a regional thought process, right? I mean, that project makes us think as regional partners, not just Clovis, and we're not worried about what somebody else over here is doing. So that's what I love about it. It's a regional project, and it leads us to think with a regional mindset.
Yeah, when I asked that question, that's exactly where I was going, that we have enough water to supplement, IPCOR, but it will continue to be a recreational spot as well.
You bet.
So there's plenty of water there, and same with Mr. Ortega, his team does a fantastic job, and it's just great to see this project moving forward and the possibility of it being funded. So, we couldn't have any better news.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mayor Morris, and members of the committee. I appreciate the recognition, but it is the effort of a large team of people working together, and we have an excellent board that has a great direction and great vision for completing this project in a shorter period of time. If I can share with you just a little bit on our federal appropriation efforts, these efforts are worked on all the time. We don't just meet with them once or twice a year. We speak to our congressional delegation probably weekly or biweekly. We also are very involved and engaged with the Bureau of Reclamation at all levels, from the DC level down to Salt Lake to Denver to Albuquerque, in working with them. when I first came on board, one of the things that the board had requested was, we have to up our funding levels in order to try to get this, get construction underway. We really want to get into construction. And one of the first things that I looked at was our competition for funds, especially our federal funds. So what we learned quickly was that we have 4 other rural water projects that are authorized that we're a part of. We're 5 rural water projects that have been authorized by Congress. And it's basically the authorization is an obligation by Congress to help pay for these projects. Ours happens to be up to 75%, which is a great percentage. But with that, each of the 5 projects competes for one bulk of money every year that's either given at the president's budget or plussed up by our congressional delegation, our senators and our U.S. representatives. I can tell you that the majority of that fund comes from the plus up. It comes from the senators and the U.S. representatives, but it's because we're talking to them all the time, to them and their staff, and asking for more money. Well, anyway, the pot of that money every year, or that appropriation, is divided among the 5 projects. Our project is the youngest, and so as the youngest project, we would get the least amount. So what we did, instead of continuing to compete against them, we called them up. We met with them and said, hey, let's work together as one voice, as a coalition, and let's go together and ask for a larger sum. And what we did is we did get together, and we worked together for a few months, and we came up with an amount of funds that if we were funded $130 million for 10 years straight, all 5 projects would be fully funded. We've met that goal 3 years now straight, and we're very excited about that. And that's our goal. The infrastructure bill, if that were to happen, we wouldn't need all of this other, but and that would be great. That allows us to move forward with the project. And if we can build it in large increments, then it saves everybody money. It saves the federal government money, which is our money, the taxpayer money. It saves the state, and it saves the local communities. The longer we drag this project out, the more it costs. Inflation every year grows, the price tag grows. The sooner we can get it done, the better. So with that said, it's a lot of effort from a lot of people working together. Our 5 projects, we are a true coalition, and we're one voice, and we go together and ask for that funding all year long. And we've been very fortunate to have met that goal 3 years. With that said, one of the projects is about to meet the ceiling of the federal obligation. I think they're at $14.2 million, and they'll be finished. And then 2 other projects, I believe, are in the 80%. So either that infrastructure bill would certainly take care of all of us, but if it doesn't, and we get whatever we get, we'll be happy with that too, and we'll continue to move forward. But we're going to continue this effort, and I think every year our appropriation will continue to grow. At least that's what it certainly looks like. Thank you.
And I believe we were the last ones to be authorized
That's right.
on any of these projects.
Mr. Chairman, yes, the door actually closed after that, and no other project have been authorized.
Okay, questions?
I just want to make a comment. I want to personally commend you and your staff on all your work and perseverance and pushing this thing forward. So I think it's great.
Thank you.
You're doing a good job.
Appreciate
Keep up
everyone's
the good
support.
work if you can.
I believe Orlando, go ahead.
If we got the full allocation of the water from the pipeline, what % of the total water use of the authority does that represent?
10%.
10%.
One of the projects you're talking about, Orlando, is that the Lewis and Clark project?
No, it is one of them, but it's not the one that's gonna wrap up.
I've been reading about the Lewis and Clark project. That's 86% complete and $617 million. And right now, as of 2021, they are needing $168 million to complete that project, and it involves 3 states.
Right. Minnesota and the other states that are
North
joining.
Dakota.
Yeah,
and
we stay
Louisiana.
in close contact with all of those folks.
Oh, okay.
Troy Larson is their project manager, very aggressive project manager, administrator.
You know, I think it's important to say that we were talking, or you were talking to us a minute ago about the delegation and visiting with the delegation. And, you know, you and Mayor Morris, John Ryan, which is our lobbyist, and I believe Claire Burrows just got returned from DC to visit with our delegation about this project and some other projects that the city's working on.
That's
And
correct.
that was pretty successful.
That's correct. In fact, Mayor Morris could probably add to that meeting, or those meetings that we did have, and we were very fortunate that we were actually able to meet with our senators and our representatives face to face rather than staff, although we enjoy working with staff. You know, staff is an important part of that process.
I think it's always good when you can meet face to face. It's makes a difference. Mayor?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Pro Tem and Mr. Ortega. That was my first trip to go to DC and meet with the delegation. And so, you know, what Mr. Ortega just said was really my impression. I thought it was great that we got to meet with the Congresswoman in each of the cases, as well as each of the senators. We did have, you know, it was great. The Ute Pipeline project was discussed with each one of them, and it's encouraging to know that they are so aware of that project. They understand it. They're interested, and it was great to have Mr. Ortega make the trip, because he could definitely, you know, speak to the technical side of things, and you know, I was just there to really ask for continued support, you know. And it was interesting when we sat down with Senator Heinrich. I think I'll just tell this story. It was kind of it was kind of interesting. Of course, it was our second meeting, and I have my talking points that I want to hit. You know, I want to cover priorities for the city, as well as talk about the Ute Pipeline project, which with each of them we do the niceties, and we get set down, and you know, and I'm ready to go through my list, and Senator Heinrich looks over at me and says, "Well, have you heard the good news?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what good news." And he says, "The Ute Pipeline project is going to be fully funded if we get our way on this infrastructure bill," is what he was getting at. And we were all silent, and I said, "Fully funded?" And he says, "Fully. Go build it." You know, and so I mean, that's how confident he was that day about it passing. You know, I think that they may be voting on it in the Senate right now, this morning. But again, cautious optimism is the route to take, and to continue to, you know, plan for all eventualities and continue the progress, because even if it is passed in the Senate today, it could be in the fall before the House, you know, does their part of, you know, reconciling with that. So anyway, getting a little off track there, but yes, it was a great visit to Washington, and our lawmakers know about this project, care about it, and they're listening to us. But I think that's because of the work over the years on the part of Mr. Ortega and others, you know, leaders from this community that have always been ambassadors for that project, and have continually went and visited with them about it, and kept it in front of them, and you know, and kept this thing rolling to the point that it's at now.
Yeah, and it's always good to, you know, in the past, we've gotten emails, we've gotten phone calls, but there is nothing like hearing that information in person. You know?
Mr. Chairman, you know, everyone is involved with this project. Every citizen in all of our member communities, from just, you know, being in support of it, you know, paying taxes that help fund, you know, our efforts, property owners that we deal with, and getting our pipeline through their properties. Everyone is a part of this, and you know, the goal and hope is that we get this built as soon as possible, so we can take this worry off of our shoulders. And of course, you know, we'll have another source of water that we can have in our portfolio that we can use. And I applaud the city of Clovis, I applaud EPCOR, everyone, all of our communities that are doing such great efforts with water conservation. They understand the situation, and they're working really hard to take these matters into their hands and plan correctly and plan for the future. So I think if we're able to accomplish this, and you know, we certainly are hoping that happens sooner than later, you know, things are going to be good for our communities, really are.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Okay, any other questions?
Mayor
Mr.
Pro Tem,
Homewood?
members of the committee, and just for your information, the state of New Mexico is also working on a 50-year water plan that they've kicked off. I've had the pleasure to sit through one of the presentations that they've given so far, and it kind of goes back to what Mayor Morris was saying in precipitation, and one of the aspects that they're looking at is climate change, and how is that going to impact the state of New Mexico in the future. And what's interesting about it is that even though we may see increased temperatures, the amount of precipitation that we've received, and those increased temperatures have been recorded over the years, the amount of precipitation that we receive actually has not changed. And so it does have an impact, the increased temperatures, because you get more evaporation, et cetera. However, we'll still be receiving the anticipated same amount of rainfall. And the other thing that they've started to notice is in regards to temperature increases is that the northwest part of the state, they're predicting to have a higher temperature increase, and then as it comes basically to the southeast, it kind of tapers out. And so in our particular region, what they're projecting is not as severe of increases in temperatures as what could be seen in other parts of the state. But the plan is to continue to work on that plan. They have several different presentations set up throughout the course of this year. The plan is supposed to be finished by the beginning of about March of 2022. And so if you guys are interested in any of those presentations, I certainly can provide that out to the committee for you guys to take note of. One of them that I'll definitely be listening to is on the 26th, and it's regards to surface and groundwater, and it's actually being presented by Dr. Philip King, and he was actually one of my professors at New Mexico State. So they have a great team assembled as part of their review team to put this plan together for the state of New Mexico.
Okay. All right, good updates, good discussion. We'll move down to number 6 for the good of the orders. Anybody have anything else? Mayor Morris.
Just one thing, Mayor Pro Tem, and you may have planned to mention this, but I just wanted to make sure everyone is aware of the groundbreaking for Finished Water 3 this Thursday, noon to 2 p.m., and it begins at the Memorial Building there in Portales. But again, groundbreaking ceremony for Finished Water 3. Exciting project because that means we're going to have Portales system connected to Cannon, connected to Clovis.
Great. And Mayor, thanks for bringing that up. Okay, anything else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with the chair, I'd like to I'd like to share this with the group and with Justin so he can put it out to the commission if you'd like. I have a white paper on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that will deliver for New Mexico and the billions, 2.5 billion to New Mexico. And I just received a white paper on that, and I want to share that with the group.
Okay.
So I'll send it to Vicki, and then she can distribute it to the committee.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Okay, sounds good. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, our next date and time of next meeting would be September 14th. Is that correct, Vicki? Okay, and with that, we're adjourned.